All right, we've all seen, or probably, that famous scene of or still of Max von Sydow approaching the house in The Exorcist, the movie. And I'm going to try to do something in the spirit of that, really brief scene. It's of this priest walking up to this front of the house, and it's at night, and it's really atmospheric. And that's one of those scenarios that I thought about when I was doing both the street lamps and one of the recent Halloween images. Okay, let's see. Let's go right here. Now, I don't have like a big two-story house or something like that, so I thought we'd use a castle up in the distance or something like that. All right. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm kind of referencing, I have on my computer screen the scene that I'm referring to. It looks like there's kind of a gate right here. And front enclosed garden area. I don't think I've used these fences here for the foreground before. I usually have them in the background with the larger one in the foreground. And I am stamping on a piece of the vintage paper. Just something that will go nice and fast. As I'm doing this, I'm not getting a really great positioning here. I have a little bit of a gap in between some of these fences here. I do see I have drawn those lines on the back of the cling. I forgot about that, so I can get a little bit closer. Anyways, those little gaps in there, what I'll do is I'll just fill it in. And I just take a pen like this, and I just fill it in like this. That's not matching up exactly either. Not even close. Okay, and a little bit of a gate right there. But I don't really care too much because a lot of this is going to be in darkness anyways, so, so be it. Okay, this would be a sidewalk over here, but I think I'm going to use a little bit of this curvy walkway just as a visual lead in right into here. Like about like so. I'm just using the top of this stamp right here. All right, now let's see. I thought we'd put the castle right up here, looking kind of ominous maybe. So it'll be quite a distance for this figure to walk up to the castle, but hopefully it'll be kind of within the spirit of the piece. Okay, now this has a really sharp edge down here. I'm going to wipe a lot of that ink off there, and I'll wipe off a little bit off the base so that'll, hopefully it seems like kind of this castle is rising out of the mist, and I'll try to have a lot of mist included. And something like that. And let's see, our character. Trying to think of the size I want for this. Maybe I have a lot of little kind of walk-in characters now. Or I didn't used to. Kind of hikers, but, you know, kind of nothing urban. But with the new Halloween stamps, we have quite a bit to choose from. Let's see, do we go here? I don't know. Now I'm looking at this. Maybe I do want this a little bit larger. Yeah, let's go a little bit larger. I'm thinking, I mean, we could go with the smaller one, but I think it maybe a little bit more prominent here because the castle's probably going to be the dominant kind of visual destination, but I want him to go through kind of a larger figure here because, you know, in that scene, the characters rather, you know, it's the visual focal point of the whatever movie poster, yeah, DVD cover, etc. Yeah, like that. Okay. Now, I'm trying to decide here if I want something over here, like maybe like a branch or something like that coming in from that angle. We'll go pretty large here. We'll go with the spooky tree large. And again, we'll transition it as if it's coming out of the mist. So you remove a lot down here. Then as you dab off some ink, you take off a little bit less. And let's go right about here. And this is really going to fill in a lot of space. Like that. And we have a lot of this area in here. Now, what I've been using as little transitional visuals on a lot of the scenes lately are tombstones, and those have been working really fantastic. So here's where we kind of, I don't know, whatever. I mean, we're going off of the, going away from the Exorcist type of thing, you know, but having that light kind of coming down here on that figure, that's kind of the reference point there, so. And what I always say is you just kind of allow the scene to kind of direct you as you get into it. Sometimes it, you know, you kind of sway from the, you know, the original concept to the final result. But, you know, there might be things that are revealed to you that you weren't thinking of in the beginning, so yeah. Like in this case. So it's like he's walking through into a kind of an old cemetery type of thing. Now with those tombstones, I wiped off some of the bottom of it so that it wouldn't have, you know, a really dark impression right in this fence area. Now these other ones, let's go with one impression, and then let's go for a second impression in the background, maybe, like that. So it looks a little bit more distant, like so. go one more like that, and then we'll put another row of tombstones back there in the distance, like so. Now over here you can go with the darker impression, if you want to. But right in here, if those were too dark, it might kind of interfere with the silhouette of this lamppost like that. All right, let's see. We'll give this more of like a, kind of abandoned cemetery type of feel with this image right here, which is called Reeds. And then we have our Tiny Rocks Small. All right, now we're ready to tone this piece in with some shadow work. I'm trying to decide if I want to go with a little bit more than shadow work, so like making this piece a lot darker. And I think it'd be good to give it an overall kind of tone around there. Let me see if I can do it with a cotton ball. I would do it with the paper towel, but let's see if I can get a little bit of softer application with a cotton ball. I'll use the same ink that I've been using, which is some of this hybrid ink, but I mean, you can use whatever you want. So I take a cotton ball and I ink up, and then I kind of smash it down a little bit like this to compress some of that ink back into the ball, or past the surface. And we'll just go for try to go for a soft application here. This vintage paper already has a little bit of a vignette right there. That's already inherent in the paper. And this paper comes in at 8.5 by 11, so like you'll get one corner like that with a little bit of a vignette if you cut it into quarters like that. Okay, so see, I've toned it out around there. And this cotton ball works pretty good. Just kind of light pressure. Kind of break up this lighting in here just a little bit, maybe. So I'm going to put in a streak across this, like underneath that tree. Otherwise, this whole thing is kind of light in here, so I want to break it up to where it's like light, a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. And then also I want to bring, a lot of attention to the figure like this, so kind of, making it dark in other areas, or darker. What we'll do is we'll draw more of the tension right over here into the, the illumination. Alright, I think that should do it. Now, this cotton ball, I mean, it's good for kind of a general addition of tone, but it's not really great for really super specific areas. So that's where your colored pencils will come in if you want to add some shade, shadows in any really specific area. All right, let's go into a little bit of a warm tone for our lights right here. I'm tempted to go white, but I'm thinking about a little bit of a warmer tinge here. We might use some white on there anyway, though. Okay, we have our light. And let's go with a little bit of white, because I guess I need to, because I will be using some white pigment ink in here too, to add a little bit of that fog. So I'll add some of this maybe towards the center. And then let's add some of this up here in the castle windows. Like that. You can make it kind of look, you know, pretty dramatic like that. Put some of these highlights down here. And I'm just doing this little thing called scumbling. I'm not putting it in any particular area. I'm just trying to make a little pathway of light right there, and put some illumination on the ground like this. I can do it in dots. And let's put these little sconces right here in some light. All right, now let's see if I can add some white into here and have it look, I don't know if it's going to look natural because I don't have very much white in here, but let's lay some of it down here and let's see what we can do. And I say that because, you know, there's nothing white on the inherent on the paper itself, on that vintage paper. It's all kind of this warm tone, but we've added in these little white elements in here, especially up in the light source, so hopefully this will harmonize with that, you know, little bit of a, you know, colored light in here. In other words, white colored light. Looks okay. putting this around on this fence to it, it kind of obscures my bad placement of that fence as well. If you don't like something, just kind of put it in a blanket of fog. Okay, yeah, I think that's, yeah, I was going to say that's good enough. Let's add a little bit more here. It's a little bit lighter over here, so I'm balancing that off a little bit. All right, let's hit these lights with a little bit of a, more of a glowing type of look. I'm going to go for a little bit more of a targeted application of fog. You can do it with this. And something like that. Let's bring a little bit more fog down here. Something of that sort. And I think that is good. And we'll get this formatted and put onto a thicker piece, because this is just like some cheap text way. You see all the images kind of soaking right through the paper, this thin paper, but it's really fun to work on. You can come up with some pretty quick kind of end results when you start off with a paper that already has some tones and textures on them. So vintage papers are a fun one to work with scenes. Give it that kind of antiqued look here. Okay, so let's see here. Give a little bit of a highlight on the top of the figure here. There actually is already those highlights in the figure itself. I just kind of reinforced it with a little bit of paint again. All right, so let's find a good paper to mount this on, and we'll take a look and see what the finished result looks like. All right, final piece. Pretty fun, very quick, just black and white media for the most part, or I think not for the most part, exactly. And it really stands out on here. The white really stands out, or the beige really stands out on here, starting off with that paper. So, you know, a little bit of ink on a cotton ball, that worked out pretty good. And I got a really soft application of it. I usually don't use cotton balls for media like that. I don't know if it'll work really good on like glossy cardstock, but it works really good on this matte one. Kind of goes on a dry brushing format. You won't get a lot of application of it with each kind of swipe or twirl, but if you just kind of keep doing it, think about it in terms of like you're almost applying like a dry, powdery media to it. It's wet, but think about it in terms of the spirit of adding it, like a dry. So don't expect it to go on too fast, you know, this little swirly kind of motion or whatever, you know, streaky type of thing you're doing, but you don't want it to go on too fast because you'll have a lot more control over it if it goes on, if it applies at a much more kind of gradual rate, methodical. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the card.